Hey Juice, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ryan and I'm a former Royal Marines Commando from the United Kingdom, and I am a proud owner of a coveted green beret. So with that being said, guys, today's video is going to be regarding NATO, and the title is "Wanna Fight NATO? 10 Reasons Why You Shouldn't Mess With It." I think it's quite pertinent that we touch on this topic, bearing in mind with what's going on in Ukraine and Europe, and potentially what's going to happen in the next 10 years or so. War is changing, the way wars are fought are changing, the reasons behind the motives for war are changing as well. And the repercussions on ordinary people are becoming more apparent now, all right? And we live in the media age, we live in the social media age, everyone's got a phone, we can see things loud and clear, okay? So this video is going to be quite good. Before we get into it, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're brand new here, thanks for stopping by. If you've been here a while, let me know in the comments how long for. But other than that, guys, let's just get straight into this one. Want to fight NATO? 10 reasons you shouldn't mess with it. Let's go.
For 7 decades, the NATO alliance has practiced collective defense and deterrence against evolving international threats. And over the years, its capabilities have changed accordingly. NATO's most powerful weapon, according to Jim Townsend with the Center for a New American Security, is the unity of the alliance. But the individual allies also possess hard-hitting capabilities that could be called upon were it to face high-level aggression. Here are some highlights of the many powerful weapons NATO could bring to bear against Russia.
So I was wondering when Russia was going to get brought into this whole equation. Now, if you look back at what NATO was formed for, you can understand why it's been talked about a lot more in today's media, X, Y, and Z. But in short, do I think NATO is a force for good? I do. I think it brings good countries together, and it brings us together for all the right reasons. I'd rather there be something like NATO in place than something else. I think NATO is a force for good. Having big, strong countries such as America, Great Britain, and other countries in Europe pertaining to NATO is only a good thing, and it stops countries like Russia, you know, getting out of control.
F35 Lightning II. The air side of the NATO equation is led by the United States with the F-35 and other various aircraft. The 5th generation F-35 Joint Strike Fighter is an aircraft that rival powers have been unable to match its stealth and advanced suite of powerful sensors. While some NATO countries are looking at the F-35 as a leap in combat capability, others continue to rely on the F-16, an older supersonic fighter that can dogfight and also bomb ground targets.
Right, it goes without saying, if you have air superiority, you control a lot of open battle space, okay? It's a fact most of these wars are fought on land. Yes, you need a strong naval capability in certain areas, but obviously when it's above ground, you need a good, strong air capability, and we've seen that in Ukraine. You know, the deployment of aircraft in certain areas has been very, very effective in the counter-aggression from Russia, okay? And those who have complete air superiority, you know, you restrict the battle movements and the strategical movement of the enemy of advancing in certain ways, okay? So I think it should be probably higher up on that list, 10 reasons why you shouldn't mess with NATO. Our air capability is fantastic, okay? Collectively speaking is the key here.
And then some countries like Germany are considering European alternatives. Eurofighter Typhoons. The Eurofighter Typhoon is a capable multi-role aircraft designed by a handful of NATO countries, namely the United Kingdom, Germany, Italy, and Spain, determined to field an elite air superiority fighter.
See, the thing is, what I like about these videos is you've got diversity in the content as well. And what this video is portraying straight away to me is if you didn't know anything about NATO, the fact that they're showing you different vehicles, weapon systems and stuff already, only a minute and a half into this video, it shows you how diverse NATO can bring. Now, some countries might not have as powerful infrastructure as, for instance, America, but what America lacks in, these other countries can certainly make up the shortfall on that regard. So I like the fact that the diversity is there. You've got different weapon systems for different areas and environments, different expertise expertise levels. It all helps when we're talking about the common goal is winning and dominating wars, or in many cases, NATO prohibits wars from actually happening. It stops them in the tracks, It makes people think twice, basically.
France, which walked away from the Eurofighter project, independently built a similar fighter known as the Dassault Rafale. Observers argue that the Typhoon is comparable to late-generation Russian flanker variants such as the Su-35. While each aircraft has its advantages, be it the agility of the Typhoon or the low-speed handling of the flanker, the two aircraft are quite similar, suggesting, as the National Interest explained, that the Eurofighter could hold its own in a dogfight with the deadly Russian fighter. Bombers. The U.S. provides conventional and nuclear deterrence capabilities throughout the regular rotation of bomber aircraft into the European area of operation.
Right, so the United States has always had a massive good bombing capability. We've seen in the Middle East, and we've seen all over the world, all right, since World War II. Their bombing capability has been, it certainly has had mixed reviews. As critics will say that the bombing campaigns, some of them have been out of order, so to speak, and I'm being quite relaxed in that terminology. But there's one thing for sure, it scares the living daylights out of the aggressors if you've got that massive bombing capability, which can literally destroy grid reference points off the map. It can literally take out blocks of areas, okay? So yeah, there's it's a frightening stark reality that the US certainly brings to the table, and actually many other countries for that matter, and NATO. I don't think it's wise to mess with any country in NATO for that reason. Russia, as we've seen, aren't just inferior in Ukraine. They're certainly not the superpower that we actually believe they were, and this was proved it in Ukraine.
American bombers have been routinely rotating into the area since Russia annexed Crimea in 2014, according to military.com. That year, the Pentagon sent 2 B-2 Spirit bombers and 3 B-52s to Europe for training. The B-1B Lancers are also among the U.S. bombers that regularly operate alongside NATO allies.
Right, so that interoperability is in play as well. And what it allows us to have is a free and widely open platform available for friendly forces to be able to test themselves in certain environments. When I was in the Royal Marines, we were tested in war simulations against many other different countries with different capabilities. And what it does is it allows us to identify weaknesses within our capability and strengthen upon them and learn from the individual people who we're working with. I think it's great that NATO exists for that reason alone. You're only as good as your weakest member, so to speak, and it's important that everyone is up to strength in that regard. So yeah, let's keep going. I'm all for it. If you're all for it, let me know in the comments as to why. If you're against NATO, let me know as well. Let's have a debate, guys.
P-8A Poseidon.
Never heard of this. Don't think anyway. We'll find out.
There's also the maritime posture, particularly as Russia continues to rely on a submarine nuclear deterrent. We need a stronger presence. That's why we're seeing Norway, the US, UK do more with the P-8As. Heather Conley, the Center for Strategic and International Studies expert. Facing emerging threats in the undersea domain, where the margins to victory are said to be razor thin, NATO allies are increasingly boosting their ability to hunt and track enemy submarines from above and below the water. While there are a number of options available for this task, the U.S. Navy P-8A Poseidon patrol plane, which was brought in to replace the U.S. military's older P-3 Orions, are among the best submarine hunters out there.
Okay, so this makes a lot of sense. Now, everyone knows the United Kingdom got a nuclear deterrent by submarine. It's no secret, okay, it's widely known. But what is not known is the location of this submarine or submarines at any given time, which makes that a massive deterrent and a one that, we should be quite proud of having in this country. It keeps our island safe. Now, what America does is it goes one step higher and it has submarine hunters, all right? This individual vehicle looks like it's quite capable of doing that, and it also, what it does is it just takes you might think you've got something that's pretty cool, But America just takes that next step above, and we're basically saying, hey, you might have that as a deterrent, Russia, but it's not going to work against this. We've got a counter-offensive vehicle that's going to be able to track down your vehicle. So it seems to me like America always has an answer, which is good for NATO in the long run, because they are the global superpower, world police, all of that good stuff.
Frigates. Another effective anti-submarine capability is that provided by the various frigates operated by a number of NATO countries. The NATO allies, in particular Italy, France, and Spain, all have frigates that have very capable anti-submarine warfare systems. Brian Clark, the Center for Strategic and Budgetary Assessments. They have active low-frequency sonars that are variable depth sonars. They can find submarines easily, and they're very good against diesel submarines. These forces could be used to target Russian submarines in the eastern Mediterranean and into the Black Sea.
Now, we've seen in the news all the time, when I was in the Royal Marines, we've seen all the time Russia would test our capabilities. They would forever be in our waters, pushing their luck, so to speak. Not really doing anything wrong, but just testing the waters, putting themselves in within our waters, whether it be in land, whether it be in airspace or sea space, so to speak. And we would always have to deploy our capabilities to counter-offend that, and just in case we needed to respond. So we'd send naval ships, we'd send fighter pilots and all of that kind of stuff. What Russia was doing is effectively testing our capability to see how we fare. The fact that they haven't done anything haven't escalated that, they've constantly doing it, but they haven't escalated it further, tells me that actually the way we were responding was pretty much on par with what, would put Russia off actually escalating it. So I think it's these things happen all the time in this regard.
Norway and Denmark also have really good frigates, he explained. They can go out and do anti-submarine warfare in the North Sea/Baltic Sea area.
Yeah, we work alongside these individuals quite regular. I know we do a lot of Arctic mountain warfare with these guys in Norway. The training across that north kind of flank for Russia is taking place every single year. The United States Marines come work with us. Those loads of counterparts deployed in those areas for large periods of time, actually, 3, 4, 5 months at a time, at any given time as well in Norway. So what it's actually doing is harnessing our skills, our capabilities a little bit further than it normally would, but it's also putting off Russia from, attempting to use that northern area as a bit of a flanking option to certain countries. But those countries being said that are at potential risk, Finland and Sweden, it's looking like they're potentially joining NATO and stuff like that. They might have actually been even closer to joining NATO by the time this video gets released. So I'm all for that, guys. I think the stronger the alliance, the better.
And they're very good at that. Nimitz-class aircraft carriers.
These things.
A last-minute addition to last year's Trident Juncture exercise, massive NATO war games designed to simulate a large-scale conflict with Russia, was the USS Harry S. Truman.
Look at that beast. That is an absolute beast. That's one thing that you've got to respect with America. They just produce the goods all the time. They don't mess about with the things that they've got. You need a big ship to carry stuff on. Let's have one of these bad boys. They don't mess about, and that's what I love about America. They don't half-arse anything. Unfortunately, Great Britain, we have to rely on our guts and guile sometimes to get ourselves through situations. Maybe using second-rate kit and equipment and vehicles and stuff. I mean, the Royal Marines haven't really got an effective transport carrier for themselves via the sea anymore. We have to hijack the Royal Navy. The US Marines have their own fleet and stuff for themselves. And that's what I like about the United States. They put the budget where the mouth is and they make it happen. Simple as that. Respect.
A Nimitz-class aircraft carrier and its accompanying strike group. The carrier brought 6,000 service members and a large carrier air wing of FA-18 Super Hornets to Norway for the largest drill in years. One thing the NATO naval partners have been looking at is using carriers as part of the initial response, said Brian Clark. The United States sails carriers into the North Atlantic to demonstrate to Russia that the U.S. can send carriers into this area, from which it could carry out operations into the Baltics without too much trouble.
And what are you going to do with all of them? And we've seen the capability. That capability can be even bigger than that. You know, I forget what you call them. They have like a super formation where there's literally dozens of boats, all right, following this thing. A tremendously capable and powerful amount of infrastructure there, all right? And the UK has an equivalent of that, albeit a lot smaller, but that mixed with other groups, part of the alliance, part of NATO, formidable, all right? You dominate the seas, you dominate war, effectively.
He added. America's ability to project power throughout the deployment of aircraft carriers is unmatched, due mainly to the massive size, sophistication, and training regimen of its carrier fleet.
It can't be denied. They put the budget in, and like we've harped on enough, they just do what they say they're going to do.
The UK and France also have aircraft carriers.
Yeah, the UK and France, they do have those aircraft carriers, albeit smaller. Again, we need to look at the bigger picture holistically on a global stage. All of these together have massive projectional firepower. It's scary to think, all right? Those together are definitely a force to be reckoned with, and I don't think anyone can compete. If anyone knows of anyone who can compete, let me know why and who.
Virginia-class submarines.
Never heard of these.
Virginia-class submarines, nuclear-powered fast attack boats, are among the deadliest submarines in the world. They're armed with torpedoes to sink enemy submarines and surface combatants, and they can also target enemy bases and missile batteries ashore with Tomahawk cruise missiles.
Nice.
These submarines could be really useful to do cruise missile attacks against some of the Russian air defense systems in the Western Military District that reach over the Baltic countries, said Brian Clark. You can really conduct air operations above these countries without being threatened by these air defense systems. So you would want to use cruise missiles to attack them from submarines at sea.
Okay.
Patriot surface-to-air missile system. Patriot, which stands for Phased Array Tracking Radar to Intercept on Target, is an effective surface-to-air guided air and missile defense system that's currently used around the world.
So effectively, if you've got a few of these bad boys and an effective Navy and an effective ground element and Air Force, which NATO has, you can basically incapacitate their air capability and utilize yours. Meaning that you're probably going to have less casualties on in terms of infrastructure and manpower as well on the battle space. You're going to have less airplanes being shot out of the sky. When you got these things, you can send these things in to counteract the enemy's air capability and then send yours in to, you know, sweep up the dust, so to speak. I think it's anything like this, it really does play a pivotal role in any war.
Including in a number of NATO countries. There is a need for an integrated air and missile defense picture, said Conley. That's certainly a high-valued protection for the alliance. NATO is also in the process of fielding Aegis ashore sites, land-based variants of the sea-based Aegis ballistic missile defense system that can track and fire missiles that intercept ballistic targets over Europe. AH-64 Apache gunship.
Now we're talking. Prince Harry was an Apache pilot, and these things in Afghanistan were literally so effective, guys. If the Apaches got sent in, I mean, these things can send missiles, you know, out of sight, out of direct line of sight for the enemy, so they don't even realize what's coming their way. Phenomenal bits of kit, very, very, very effective, very, very dangerous, horrendously effective bits of kit. Okay, if you've got enough of these things, you can literally cause havoc on any battleground. You know, in Afghanistan, they were proven to be very, very effective indeed. Very costly, though, these things. You know, you need to put a lot of training hours in for the individuals to be trained in these bits of kit. But if utilized effectively, very, very good indeed. I like these.
The Apache gunship helicopter, capable of close air support, has the ability to rain down devastation on an approaching armor column. The attack helicopters can carry up to 16 Hellfire missiles at a time, with each missile possessing the ability to cripple an enemy armor unit. The Hellfire is expected to eventually be replaced with the more capable Joint Air-to-Ground missile. The Cold War-era Apache attack helicopters have been playing a role in the counterinsurgency fight in the Middle East, but the gunships could still hit hard in a high-end conflict.
I agree. I think one of the most effective bits of kit we've ever produced is the Apache helicopter, and if utilized in the correct manner, strategically can allow your troops on the ground, vehicles, everything to be able to dominate so much ground. All right, like I say, these things can attack vehicle formations from miles and miles away without even being seen, prohibiting their movement, allowing your movement, and just being. It's such an effective bit of kit. I haven't got many bad things to say about it, to be fair, guys. If you want to add any of your points on this, then drop a comment below. I think probably if there was one thing I would like to say I would have in my armament, it would be an Apache helicopter.
Leopard II tank. The Leopard II main battle tank, which gained a reputation for being indestructible, is a formidable weapon first built to blunt the spearhead of a Soviet armor thrust, and one that would probably be on the front lines were the NATO alliance and Russia to come to blows. While this tank, a key component of NATO's armored forces, took an unexpected beating in the fight against the Islamic State in Syria, it's still considered one of the alliance's top tanks, on par with the US M1 Abrams and the British Challenger II.
Yeah, M1 Abrams I don't believe is being used anymore. Let me know if I'm wrong with that. I think it might be. But the Challenger II and all of that, what a piece of kit. I was in the Mojave Desert and was firing alongside tanks, the Abrams, and with the US Marines and stuff, and those things, the first time I heard them blasting off in close proximity was such a phenomenal feeling. It was unbelievable, the firepower that these things can have. And anyone, and I mean anyone, should be scared about these things. If used correctly, again, the training in the States, from what I've seen, was, second to none. So that makes the effectiveness of these vehicles that much more greater, if used in the right way.
Observers suspect that the Leopard II, like its US and British counterparts, would be easily able to destroy most Russian tanks, as these tanks are likely to get the jump on a Russian tank in a shootout.
Yeah, the thing is with the Russian tanks, what we found is a lot of the Russian infrastructure is old, unused, not really maintained, and not really cared about, to be quite frank, which, again, points out the fact that if the kit isn't used in the right way and maintained in the right way, you can forget about how capable it is. It's not going to make any difference whatsoever. Now we're going. Now we're talking. Unbelievable bit of kit. Fantastic video, that, guys. I will put the original link in the description. I think you should go give them a subscribe, a follow, and all of that good stuff. The US Military News channel is one of my favorite channels. Without these channels, we can't do reactions as such, so please go show them the love. Unlike other reaction channels, I do like to give all the credit to these guys because I'm a fan of their content, okay? And all I'm doing is putting my spin on it, my military spin, and yeah, I don't want to try and create anything different from this. I just want to give my opinion on it. So hopefully you guys can appreciate it. If you did like today's video, you want to drop a comment or anything like that, drop a comment below and I'll try and get back to you. But want to fight NATO? 10 reasons you shouldn't mess with it. Well, I can think of a few more. But guys, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Like, share and subscribe to the channel if you're brand new here. And I'll see you next time, troops. Peace.